Hey, Indy, nice to see you again.
Right, Gav?
Yeah, so just thought we could talk about, a bit of the old days and a bit of the new days and, how we done a few webinars back in the past.
Yeah, they
Um,
were they were fraught with you were the Iceman, Gav, with some of those live recordings.
well, I think we all had to be. It's a scary moment sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, but
Um,
it's moved on, isn't it? Because obviously the pandemic shifted everything. So even the whole thing just became normal now that we're in Zooms, Teams, whatever it happens to be. And obviously the whole webinar thing, as it was called, has just become commonplace. Um, And
yeah.
what that's meant is now there are thousands of hours of recordings out there, and a lot of them are quite useful, but they are, inaccessible, I think.
And how do you think that's it's beneficial to companies?
Well, for companies and for learners, Zooms are good because they're cheap, they're accessible, you can do it on your own time. But I think where the gap is making, a blob of it. I mean, if you go into a library and there was no indexing on the wall, how would you find the book you need? And I think a blob of Zoom recording is a bit like that. You've got 60 minutes of stuff in there. Some of it's preamble, some of it's pretty useless. How do you find the nugget that you want? And I think that's where we're starting to come in now with the smart video system. There's an awful lot that we can do to turn that blob of content into something a lot more accessible and useful.
Yeah, and it's great that you mentioned the smart video system. So, how is the how are we using these Zoom recordings in the smart video
Well,
system?
what we're finding is that certainly with membership associations, they have lots of recordings, and it's fairly simple to take those recordings, which they might be, leading to people to on their website, but turning into something which is more akin to an academy. So if we take, the current client that you're working with, Gav, they've got 30 hours of Zooms that we're putting into their system. And then we'll do, as each one comes in, we'll do a bunch of things. We'll get it transcribed, which means it's all searchable. And then if we want, that can be translated. There's 50 language that we can translate to. I think one of the key things is making it easy to access topics in a Zoom, I say Zoom, but you know what I mean, in any recording. So let's say a recording is 60 minutes long. There may be each speaker could be a topic, or within each speaker's presentation, there could be topics which are driven by her slides. And the fact that we've then got topics means that single bit of video is easy to navigate, to move around in. Well, then if you've got lots of them, you can even create a playlist. So if you've got similar topics from different events, we can create a playlist, which is a journey through those different events. And I think that's kind of a real point of differentiation. You know what I mean? Other things we've got is obviously we've always been able to add questions to content, but now we can generate questions with the AI tool. You've seen that; it's a lot of fun. So it really speeds up that process of adding questions, and those questions can be on the whole, or they can be on the topic. We've obviously got all the interactive elements that make it a bit more engaging, like polls and surveys and hotspots if needs be.
Yeah,
But perhaps one of the other key things, which I think is really becoming important in learning, is personalization. Yeah, so if we ask the learner or the viewer or the person who's paying for that piece of content a few questions, we can dynamically build a playlist for them based on their wrong or right answers. And that's so powerful. So if you've got a particular piece of training, it maybe needs 10 questions, 15 questions, but some of the answers, you don't get served that video. So that's what we mean by personalization. I think it's really cool. And finally, we got a couple of other things which maybe are not so relevant for Zooms, but obviously we can produce certificates. So if the awarding body wants to recognize that someone has completed some content, we can award a certificate to them based on a pass mark. And for another time, I know you're going to do this with me and Goyen, but for another time, we can look at a lot of data. So everything that happens in the system is recorded, isn't it? So we've got tremendous reports that can provide insight into how people are learning and stuff.
And if I was just to ask, what is one of your favorite features that you've mentioned above?
I think it's topics. There's some of them are a bit more flashy, but for me, just being able to, we had that little hamburger menu, and then being able to jump around. It's simple, and simple is quite often the best. It's just having the ability as a viewer to pause something, go off and make a cup of tea or whatever. I want to watch that topic again. Click the menu, jump to that topic. That's gold dust.
Brilliant. And any last words?
No, really, just, that we'd like to work with people who've got lots of Zoom recordings. That's one way in, and it's a simple way in for us to help. So if someone is watching this and they have got a bunch of Zooms, then hit me up.
Oh, fantastic, Indy. It's been great catching up with you.
Cheers, Gav.